I'm so excited that we have all three of you here to talk with us tonight because, as we've just seen, this show is really equal parts music and dance, and both of them are extraordinary in their own right, and then together it just becomes transcendent. But I want to hear about the origin story. How did you all meet? How did this collaboration come together, and how did you come to seeing each other kindred artistic spirits?
In 2013, I was DJing at the Public Theater in New York, and the Bengsons were doing a 10-minute folk set in between my hip-hop set, which I was like, that's bothersome. And they walked in and opened their mouths, and I dropped my, everything on the ground. And we both were like immediate, we were like, we have to be friends. We felt this connection. And then they said they were doing a show with a director who was a mentor of mine in college. And so then I started to do this show with them. It's called 100 Days. And it was taking place in San Francisco. And I went to do that. And Sonya, who is also my partner, girlfriend, came and visited. And I knew from the start, from hearing their music and knowing Sonya's work, that this was going to be a match made in heaven, like a feral match made in heaven. And it kind of was like they met and that was it. Like from that literal moment, that very night at 1 a.m. was the first track they ever made for Sonya. She used it immediately on So You Think You Can Dance, and herein lies 5 years later, so.
When you embarked on the creation of this work, and I know, Sonya, you said that this is a story that you had wanted to tell for a really long time. So how did you bring your collaborators kind of into the themes that you were interested in exploring? How did you all kind of share with each other your own experiences with the theme and kind of bring everyone to, either through music and through movement, start to come through the process of how you wanted to put this on a stage? We
have the baseline of our relationship is to have very in-depth conversations about life. So when we started to, after 100 Days and after I fell in love with their music and did a couple pieces on So You Think You Can Dance of their amazing music, we were in our living room talking about, we were at Ars Nova Theater talking about life and talking about family, and they started recording our conversations. And a lot of our family strife is similar and different, but the desire to rebuild family when there are these unfortunate walls and barriers that form happen, we started to discuss that. And the more I listened to the recordings of our conversations, and then they would come over and show me, play me demos, and I would just melt because it's truly, the music is truly everything that my insides want to say all the time. Truly, that's how I feel about their music. And they started building tracks, and then we got this opportunity to perform a works in progress of it at Judson's Church. And after that, Tommy Kriegsman commissioned me at New York Live Arts, and I knew that this was the piece I wanted to do. And it just kept escalating and escalating, and now we're here, and we're actually going to leave it here. This is the last time we're performing it, which is really remarkable.
Can you tell us a little bit about that process of taking those conversations and turning them into this music that we heard tonight, and then kind of integrating it, as a theatrical performance that we saw?
Shawn and I have been collaborating since we met for about 10 years and writing music together, and it's an interesting thing that happens when you work with your partner, that a certain kind of honesty becomes inevitable. Because walls fall over the years and over the time, and eventually you have to tell each other the truth. And if you're writing music together too, the truth is in there too. And then when we first saw Sonya's work, it was sort of a hallucinatory experience for me, because I felt there was this feeling of, how does she know? How does she know? And maybe everybody feels this way when you see her work, this sort of like, how did you put on a body, and a kind of body that I'll never have, some of my most intimate secrets and my biggest fears, my biggest desires. It's a really otherworldly experience for me watching her work, but also watching her create. So we started to also go to her classes sometimes, and we would walk out with 3 new songs, just like, it was like a meal every time. And I will say also that listening to Jo Lampert sing, and I don't mean to just like have it be all about compliments, but I'm telling you, this woman's voice comes from another world, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a lightning strike. And once I heard her sing, once Shawn and I heard her sing, I was like a junkie. Like, I just want it. I want it on everything. I want it in everything. And then I happened to love them as well.
What if the end of that was like, and I hate them?
Now, we're no longer friends. No, I love them, and I consider, you know, part of having a family that is broken in some way also means getting the very real privilege of choosing your family. And that's what I feel I've had the gift to do with you.
I'm curious about, you know, once you've created this beautiful score and then the choreography that you create with it, can you tell us about the live dialogue that's happening on stage between the two? So the way that the movement and the music respond to each other and feed each other and also read each other.
Exploring this has been really fun and hard and interesting, and I'm really into it for many reasons. Not fully always approachable, like orally, you can't always understand it. The baseline of that for me is because it's memory. Anytime you hear it, for me, it's nostalgia of the times when they were better. And they're reminders for me that I'm hopeful that things that are broken will get better and will be fixed. In the strife in my experiences that I've had, it took a long time to get to this place where I feel I can still hold on to nostalgia and still hold on to things that I remember that were hearty and real, and remember what I learned from them and hold on to them. So this live diary love letter, we call it, is important for me selfishly at times to they're marks for me to remember that there once was and maybe there will be again.
It's interesting because in the process, like, there have been many different processes of putting this together. And so the first time, obviously, like, there was actually music first and there were no moves. And then that was like a very narrative process because we had all these recordings of Sonya, and we literally in a row, like, of the story had it narrated with songs, but also with just pure narration. And so it was a building of like these transitions. Some of them didn't even include movement and they were just text-based. Then to do it for Nyla and to totally abstract and dilate it was such an interesting process. I mean, she connects to things in the music that they wrote that I'm not sure I would have ever heard until I saw it visualized. Like, just like, ka, 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 ka. You're just like, what? Oh, yeah, the claps. I didn't even necessarily tune into that. So there was a process of bringing out and honing in what already existed in the music based on what she deeply heard and connected to in it and making movement.
The stylistic range of the music is really extraordinary. It hits so many different moods and tones. Can you talk about, you know, just all the influences that you're pulling from and why those were the musical ingredients that you wanted to mix into this story?
I don't think there was very much of a conscious effort to sort of take from different genre, but I do think that the conversations that we had with Sonya and Jo had such a range of experience in them that they called for a different sound, you know? So I feel like, and I also think what Sonya makes has this range from the very intimate, very small, very human, to this sort of electric, gnashing, sexy, I don't know if you can swear at Jacob's Pillow thing, you know, thing. And then also this, like, this holiness that she calls forth in the room. So I feel like we were very much responding to, even if it wasn't the choreography as you see it now, we were responding to these conversations and the work as we saw it develop. We're always interested in sounds that are unacceptable in some way. We're interested, particularly in women's voices, sounds that are inappropriate. I'm always sort of interested in sounds that maybe feel ancient or are calling on something that's not necessarily pretty. These are the things that turn me on as a singer and as a musician. I'm interested in moving through a kind of ugliness into a new kind of beauty.
So the last question that I'm going to pose before we have to wrap up. Curious, something that you have all learned from each other in terms of your practice and processes, and something that, you know, since you've started this collaboration, that you've taken from somebody else in the collective that has become kind of part of your process that wasn't there before.
The baseline of this piece is falling in love with this woman. So that's how it started, because my world exploded. And from that point in meeting Abigail and Shawn and collectively working, if you will, I learned truth, to hold on to your truth. And it's really opened me. I thought I was of that mind. And now I really feel like I have a hearty hold on it. It doesn't. I don't shiver about truth as much as I used to.
Amongst the many things is the idea that there is a continual deep well, and you never have to stop searching. I've watched Sonya get her hands and feet back in the mud with this piece this last year, and I realized I see so many changes that she made. There were new company members, there was relearning and reteaching, but then there was still a constant, like, her skin will be peeling off. She will keep going. And that's the same when I've worked with the Bengsons and the pieces that they make. Like, we have done 100 days many a time, but it's because it's peeling back the layers, and so I'm not afraid of the well. And I want to go deeper into the well, and I don't want to stop even when it might feel like I should. There's typically something below in that soil to uncover. So I know when I'm with the right is not the right word, but the right collaborators, like, then we can do that. And we can get dirty. Yeah. And dirty is clean.